Hello again and welcome back. This is Dave, and in this lesson you and I are going to carry out a few simple exercises using earned value. Now, as I said in lesson 1, my objective here isn't to teach you earned value. I assume you're familiar with it, but what I want to do to make sure you can really understand earned schedule is to give you a refresher, if you will, or a review as I've said here, on exactly how to use the earned value metrics. So plenty to do, let's get stuck in straight away. First of all, I've prepared for you a fairly detailed graph of cost over time showing you all of the major metrics that are used within earned value. You can see up here I've given you a handy reference of what the various acronyms actually mean. BAC, budget at completion of your project. PC, which stands for planned cost. Sometimes it's called PV, as you've seen, which is the planned value at each point. AC for actual cost, EV of course for earned value, EAC for estimate at completion, and from the point you are right now to the end of the project, ETC, your estimate to completion. I've started off by looking at today's date, that is today, or in terms of earned schedule, this is AT, in other words the actual time. So way back when you created your project plan, this is your planned value, or PC as I've called it here, and I've made it a nice simple linear cumulative line showing how the planned cost actually ends up at the end of the project as your budget at completion. This therefore is your budget that you'll need to run the project, and let's assume is the planned duration in time. And I've left these units totally open, so it could be weeks, months or quarters in terms of time, and the cost can be in any monetary unit and currency that you wish. Let's assume, since we're at this point in time, you've been capturing the actual costs. Remember, I'm looking at earned value here rather than earned schedule. And I've shown here that actual costs are greater than those originally planned. And let's also assume that this line here shows you your earned value. As you're probably familiar with, it's the earned value metric that is your point of reference. So when you look at actual cost and planned cost, you'll actually be comparing them to earned value. So here, since actual costs are higher than earned value, you know that your cost variance is showing you that you're going to overspend. In the same way, using earned value as your point of reference, noting at this moment in time the planned cost was greater, this gives you your schedule variance, and again in this example I've shown, this shows you're going to come in late. And therefore, continuing the line here, this is your estimate at completion and your estimate to completion. I've merely shown it as this amount here in terms of cost. So you can see quite clearly the way I've drawn this because of the metrics you can see here at this midpoint. You're forecasting to overspend, and this amount would be your cost overrun, whatever this amount is here. And this would be your forecast time slip based on this data here. This, of course, being your variance at completion in terms of time. But again, let me reinforce the point. Because you're using earned value, these time variances are derived from cost units, not actually from schedule units. So that's a nice diagram here to show you the big picture of earned value. Now, what you'll know with earned value is you use forecasting with indices. And here's a little reminder that at any point during your project, when you're collecting earned value, reminding you what your plan said you should have spent, and then looking at what you've actually spent, earned value is your reference point. So when forecasting cost, you use the cost performance index, otherwise known as CPI. And again, to remind you, using the cost data with earned value will always give you an accurate result. Here, CPI is calculated by taking the earned value and dividing it by actual cost. Just looking at this little schematic here, if the earned value was, let's say, $100,000 and your actual cost was $200, then CPI would be showing you as 0.5, less than 1, clearly showing you're due to overspend. Similarly, forecasting the schedule performance index in terms of cost, because this is earned value, is called SPI, and this is earned value, yet again, divided by the planned value. A little note here to help you remember these is that you always start with earned value at the top and you divide with whatever the index is you're trying to calculate. When it comes to cost, it's divided by actual cost. When it comes to schedule, you divide it by planned schedule. So here's a simple example using the figures I've shown here. Imagine your schedule variance, or SV, shows you as $1,300 and that your cost variance, CV, is $1,000. You can therefore calculate your CPI, that's this up here, by taking earned value, let's say it was $866, dividing it by the actual cost of $1,000 gives you 0.86, showing you since it's less than 1, this will be over budget. Similarly, SPI is 0.866, that's the earned value, let's imagine, dividing, in this case, by the schedule variance, 1,300, giving you 0.66. This is less than 1, so the project is going to be late. Remember that ratios greater than 1 are good. Less than 1 in this case shows you bad news. Here's another example, and I've actually stated it here. Let's imagine you're having 1,000 feet of terracotta pipeline laid across a field. Each 1 foot section costs £2 in labour costs. You have engaged a local specialist to dig the trench and lay the pipes. He is charging you £60 a day for labour, and he estimates that it will take him 10 days. So what is the projected cost, your planned value, your budget at completion? Well, it's 1,000 feet at £2 a foot, giving you £2,000, plus the labour 10 days at £60 a day, giving you £600. So the total value is £2,600. That's just the start. Now let's plug in the formula and do the calculations for earned value. Let's assume your project has started and you check the specialist progress at the end of day 5. At the end of day 5, he gives you a bill for £1,000. This is the actual cost. And he tells you that he's laid 333 out of the 1,000 pipe sections. So the question in your mind right now is, are we going to come in on budget, or over budget, or under budget? Are we going to come in on schedule, or early, or late? Let's plug the numbers in. Now, since to lay 1,000 pipe sections equals £2,600, as I've said, the value, that's the earned value of course, of each laid pipe is £2.60. Doesn't matter what it's costing, the value to you is £2.60. So the earned value equals 866. This is exactly the example I gave you. Here's what it looks like on a graph. You have paid £1,000 for what should have cost £1,300, but only a third has been completed instead of 1/2. Here you are today. Here's your planned cost, your PV if you will, showing to the end of day 10. Here's what the actual cost is. He's given you a bill for £1,000, and the earned value, which you've just worked out, is £866. And you know that since he's laid 333 pipe sections and each have a value of £2.60, giving you 866 earned value thus far. So what's your schedule variance? Well, it's earned value minus planned cost at this point in time, which is 1,300, giving you minus 433. Now this is a schedule value in monetary terms, but because it's negative, it shows that you're going to come in late because the individual concerned failed to carry out £433 worth of work. What about your cost variance? This, again, is the earned value of £866 subtracted from your actual cost, again giving you minus £134. This is negative, so in this case, you're going to come in over budget. Just to prove that, if you will, by using your cost performance index, that of course is your earned value divided by actual cost, giving you 0.86. It's less than 1, so therefore it's over budget. And similarly, your schedule performance index is your earned value divided by your planned cost, giving you 0.66. This ratio is less than 1, so yes, your project is going to come in late. So there's a very simple example of how you'd use traditional earned value management metrics. What about estimating the completion date? Well, if you assume from this point on that all remaining work will have the same schedule performance index, this will only give you a correct result if the planned end date has not already been exceeded. Your final project duration equals your planned project duration divided by SPI, which, as you know, is earned value divided by planned value. So going back to the previous slide, having worked out what your CPI and SPI is, you can now carry out forecasting and know what the final project duration will be. Taking another view, if you assume that at this point on that the future spend rate will continue, then your final project cost will be budgeted cost divided by your cost performance index. So your cost performance index shows you efficiency, that's doing something with the least possible expenditure of resources, and your schedule performance index shows effectiveness, that's doing it well. It doesn't matter what it takes, but you will do it well. So let's look at our EVA step-by-step calculations. First of all, you need to work out your budget at completion. This will normally be known after planning. Then you'll work out your earned value, which will need to be calculated at time point by time point, where earned value is your actual percentage complete times your budget at completion. Your budget at complete is your earned value divided by your percentage complete. Simple formula translation here, and your percentage complete is therefore earned value divided by your budget at complete. The percentage spent thus far will be your actual spend divided by your budget at complete, showing it as a simple ratio expressed as a percentage. Continuing, you'll need to work out your cost variance, your schedule variance, your cost performance index, and your schedule performance index. You'll then work out your estimate at completion, which is budget at completion divided by CPI, and then your estimate to completion, or ETC, which is budget at completion minus your actual cost. Finally then, you'll have your variance at completion, called VAC, which is budget at completion minus your estimate at completion, which brings us nicely to the end of lesson 2. So all I've done here is given you a very swift, very quick overview of the application of standard earned value analysis or earned value management calculations. So do join me in lesson 3, where I will complete these earned value formula and then segue into earned schedule. Thanks for your time, thanks for your attention. My name's Dave Litton. See you in lesson 3. Bye for now.